What do you believe is the most important issue facing Canada right now?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the more important issue is one of those that is not really discussed right now in our society. I think the environment and climate change is the one that should take the most of our attention. And it's not getting enough attention and enough good decisions and policies. In fact, in the last year, uh, sometimes I'm going to be a little bit partisan. Okay, so forgive me, I'm a politician, so sometimes I can criticize others. um, we are seeing a lot of step backs from the Carney government on a lot of environmental issues, environmental evaluation process, the cap on oil and gas sector, also the the opportunity for a new pipeline, the end of the carbon tax. What else? There's some news about the pesticides, but I'm going to say environment in general, not only climate change, because even if we reduce drastically our greenhouse gas emission, there will still be environmental problems in general, especially biodiversity. And also, not just the fact that we are losing species, but the species that remain, they are losing members. We are losing individuals in a massive, massive way. Um, Funny thing, I was looking at the report recently, and people like my age, like mid age, it was like, what changed since you were a kid or a teenager? And one of the things that people were telling a lot was, when I was young, there were so many bugs in the windshield when we were driving with my parents. And there's a drastic drop of insects in general and wildlife animals. It's not related to greenhouse gas emission. It's not related to, the earth is changing and it's, more and more hot. It's one problem, but it's one of many problems that we have in with the environment. And I think that Canada or Quebec should focus much more about that. It's okay to focus about economy, the budget, jobs, of course, healthcare and education. All those are important issues, but I think that we are not paying enough attention to the environment, or we are moving in the wrong direction. So that's my answer.
Why did you decide to run for public office? What brought you to running?
Um, Two things. I would say, um, as a teenager, I was a political nerd. And I was really interested in the news, in elections, in political parties. I was watching that like it was like an interesting game for me. But first, it was mostly like a game. And after that, I studied in sociology and political science. I've been involved in the labor movement. So after that, after sociology and being involved in my union, it was to fight injustice, to fight inequalities, to fight people living in, to fight the fact that people are living in poverty. For me, poverty is a form of violence. So I decided to get involved in socialist movements or social democratic movements, social justice movements, to just to change the world and create a better world where everyone is respected. It seems like really cheesy what I'm saying, but it's really why I'm doing politics. I became a member of the NDP in 2000. The party was at 2% in the polls. Right now we are maybe in Quebec at 5-6%. So it was never because I'm sure to be elected, because I think that the paid is super cool or I want to be an important person. It was not that. It was that because I have some values, I believe in them, and I want to fight for them. And also, maybe a compliment to my answer is that I think really that you also have to like people when you do politics. If you don't like people, do something else. And you can like people and being a liberal or a conservative, but you need to be there for the collectivity, the community, and others. If you hate human beings, it's not your thing.
What is the most challenging part of your work as a member of parliament?
Um, challenging. Two things. It's um, sometimes it's difficult to be reasonable when you're really angry, and maybe it's not the smart thing to say or to do, but you really feel that you it could be a right answer, or you have this like this rage in you, but you have a meeting with your team or others MP and say, no, we will not say that because the backlash effect will be too harsh, or it's going to be counterproductive. So sometimes to be a little bit more reasonable is tough, but the challenging in a day-to-day job, I hate to do fundraising. Fundraising is really painful, but you need it. Because there's no public financement, there's no public money at the federal level for political parties to do elections. When you have a certain number of MPs, you can have money from the House of Commons to have research department and outreach department and a leader's office and stuff like that. But it's parliamentary. When you do elections, you need to raise money, and you start from scratch. And a federal election for a candidate, if you spend the maximum amount allowed by Election Canada, it's like $100,000 or 110,000 $110,000. It takes a lot of donation of $20 to raise that kind of money, and it's not fun to call people to ask for money. Please give me money. No, nobody wants to do that.
What is the most common concern that you hear from the constituents in your writing?
Housing, the cost of housing, people who cannot buy a house, or people who rent an apartment and they are afraid of the increase in the rent, and sometimes they will accept the increase because they don't want to move, they want to stay in the neighborhood. Sometimes they will refuse the increase and they will move out in another place in Montreal. But the cost of living in general and the cost of housing is the number one thing that people are telling us. I think my and what I read and studied is that we don't have enough units that we call out of the market, because it's a really people are building houses and apartments to make profits, to make money, but we don't have any co-ops. We don't have any enough. We don't have enough co-ops. We don't have enough social housing, affordable housing, subsidized housing. Our market, it's unbalanced. It's not balanced. We only have 3% of our units in the market that are out of the market, non-profit units. But you look at Finland or Denmark, they are at 10% or 20% of their market that are units that are not in a logic of profits or making money. So that's better. That's the way we should go. But yes, housing, and we talk about homeless people, but there's a lot of people that are not in the street, but they are living in their car because they don't have money to pay an apartment, or sometimes they are forced to take coloc to be 3 4 person in an apartment, and it's not by choice, it's because they don't have enough money to pay for an apartment. 2 years ago there was a by-election in near Verdun. Okay, Craig Sauvé was our candidate, and I knocked on doors there to convince people to vote for us. And there were so many people that were people I was their MP before. They were living in Rosemont at Patry, but they moved there because they cannot pay the rent anymore in my riding because it was too high. So I had a lot of ex-citizens, ex-voters that were now living there because it's a little bit more cheaper for now. So yes, long story short, the housing is the main issue.
What advice would you give to young Canadians who feel disconnected from politics?
That's a huge question. That's a tough one. Um, make your voice count. If you get involved, you parties will pay attention to you. If you stay, aside, you're not attractive to any political party. So work, try, get involved, follow the news, real news, not only influencers on social media, but news that you can rely on, and get involved. And then your voice will be heard for real. But you have to jump in the pool. You have to do it. You have to follow things. You have to get involved, and and all political parties will be happy to welcome you and hear from you. But you have to do something. It will not just happen. Political parties are trying to reach everyone in society because that's what we do. We have a message to pass. We want to bring people to get to be volunteers, to be voters, to be members, whatever. But on the other side, if young people say that's not for me, they don't understand, they don't listen. What did you do? You have to, open the door yourself. Do it.
Currently, do you believe it's more important to focus on internal or external affairs?
If you want to win elections, it's internal affairs. If you want to be a good politician, it's both. Sometimes, the issues that are related to international trade, war and peace, genocide, human rights, or climate change, it's international and it's going to have a huge impact on people here. But it's not on those issues that you win elections. When you door knock and when you talk to people on the street or in the park, it's not very often that it's the question ballot. You know what is a question ballot? What will be the issue on what people will vote? But we can have exceptions. With the genocide in Gaza, people were really, really touched by it, and sometimes it was, I'm going to get involved, Alex. I'm going to support you because you said something about Palestine. You said something about Gaza because it was so horrible that people were touched, in their heart and mind. So sometimes it can be a motivation for voters or to be involved or to give money. But most of the time, it's internal issues that will motivate voters. It will be cost of living, jobs, economy, healthcare, mostly. Is it the most important issues? Yes and no. It's hard to say healthcare is not important. Of course, if you're sick, you really want to see a doctor and get the treatment you need. But mostly, people will talk about internal affairs when we talk with voters.
What is one issue facing Canada that you believe deserves more attention?
Um, so I can repeat my first answer. Environment, climate change, biodiversity. Respect of nature and life in general. Right now, I have to say that I'm a little worried about the fact that our federal government is willing to spend 5% of the GDP on defense, on military spending. I don't think it's wise. It's a lot of it. It represent, if we had to spend 5% of our GDP in the army, it's almost $150 billion. That's a lot. Universal pharmacare for every Canadian, paying for all the drugs and medication you need, is maximum 16 billion a year. So there's a lot of pharmacare you can put into $150 billion. I'm not sure it answers the needs of the population. And when we have an healthcare crisis, education crisis, environment crisis, housing crisis, is it really wise to spend that amount of money in the army? I agree that we need an army and they should be well equipped and respected. I'm fine, but sometimes it's just crazy. Last summer, we learned that the cost of acquisition of the F-35 jumped from $19 billion to $28 billion, like 50%, like that. And there was no debate about it. It was just like, yeah, that's it. That's life. What? No, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, it's more than $10 billion more. Maybe we can have a discussion about it. Maybe we can spend that kind of money elsewhere. And recently, Carney said, okay, we're going to buy 72 F-35. Okay, that was already in the plans. And said, well, maybe we can also buy 72 Gripen from Sweden. I was just like, do we really need 144 jets in Canada? There was no debate about it. And it's those amounts of money are ridiculous. And sometimes we are arguing about a 5 million spending. Hard debate. But when it comes to the defense, it's like money is no object. So that will be my answer about it. But don't forget the environment and climate answer also.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Next, what's a day in the life of an NP look like?
Oh yeah, I remember that question, and it was the real answer is it depends. it's a it's not a really fun answer, but it depends. Every day is different, and it can change abruptly. You can think that your day will look like what was planned 2 days ago, and suddenly, poof, this is completely different. But first and foremost, I have to say that a day in the life of an MP is quite different if you are in Ottawa sitting in Parliament or if you are in your riding, because it's two different universes and with two different kind of work and challenges. When you are in Ottawa at 2 p.m., it's question period. When you sit on a committee, you will sit 2 times 2 hours per week on your committee. You will prepare your committee. You will ask questions to witnesses. You will study bills. You will put forward amendments. You will table petitions in the House of Commons. You will meet lobbyists. Yeah, because otherwise full of lobbyists. For me, lobbyist is not it's not a bad word. It's a part of our democratic system. Sometimes it's unfair because poor people don't have lobbyists, and oil and gas companies they have a lot of lobbyists. But it's normal to meet people in Ottawa, groups, associations, companies sometimes that will explain their point of view, farmers or unions, and they will try to influence you, which is normal. And you will learn. As an MP, you will meet people, you will learn things. They will bring some problems that you didn't know about. It's useful. Students organizations, they come often and they come in and see us in Ottawa. um, so a day in the life in Ottawa is a lot of meetings, committees, question periods, scrums, and interviews. When you are in your riding, it's you meet citizens, you do local activities, festivals, civil society, community groups. Uh, you know, some neighbors in the backyard organizing. They are cleaning their alley, so you go and help them. Stuff like that. So it's really, really different when you are in a riding or in Ottawa.
If there was one thing you could say to every Canadian, what would it be?
Take care of others. I think if everyone take care of others, we'll live in a really great society. After that, how do you do that? Yeah. Well, how do you want? There's many ways, but taking care to each other, I think it's the basic thing.